keep on getting up, you know? How do you just keep on getting up after you just keep on getting knocked down? How can you get excited about this ever? How can you ever get excited about this team, man?
Come on, Johnny, it's better than that.
It's every year, man.
Let's do this, Titans fans. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the show. My name's Dane from Clarkey's Rugby League column. I'm joined always by my better-looking co-host, Blaze from BKRsport, fresh off a very disappointing round one performance. I don't need to ask how you are. I presume not the best after that one, mate. All of our teams went down this weekend, including our feeders in Queensland Cup. We don't have our mighty women's in the NRLW carrying us at the moment. It was a tough week all around, wasn't it, my friend?
Oh, mate, this one's really rocked me, to be completely honest with you, and I know this would have rocked, it has rocked our entire fan base, to be honest with you, and, you know, well, I'll explain in a little bit kind of what I feel and the reason why I believe, you know, everyone right now is just feeling so dejected and, you know, just so disappointed and sad and whatnot. And, you know, this podcast here, guys, the Gold Coast Frontline Podcast, we're here to try and, you know, build you up and feel positive and be confident and kind of tell you what our thoughts are. And we believe everything we're saying, but I feel like this podcast today is going to be a rough one. So obviously, do put your seatbelt on, to be completely honest with you, because, yeah, what we saw over the weekend was, you know, just something that none of us were expecting. We were really, you know, building ourselves up with hype. We were building ourselves up with expectation. We had Desi Hassler come in, and we got an uppercut. We got an absolute uppercut to the chin that really has, you know, yeah, I've been quite emotional these last couple of days and just feeling a little bit lost, you know, a little bit lost with kind of, you know, what we saw and how dramatic what we saw was. And, you know, obviously we had the vlog. Clarkey was here. He was sitting right next to me, and we just were, you know, a little bit speechless. So, yeah, today's going to be a tough podcast, but at the end of the day, we still want to create consistency. We still want to keep on pumping along, and we're still going to support this team through thick and thin. But, you know, it's one of those kind of slogans right now where, you know, I love this team. I love this team to death, but God, I hate them right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love them, but sometimes you can just be in that state where you're just like, I really don't like them, but I love them kind of deal.
Yeah, we're both Titans through and through, and to be fair, this isn't a fun podcast to record, but we're going to face the music. We both thought we'd win 13 plus.
I said 30 plus.
30, yeah. For what it's worth, man, I still don't think the Dragons are a good team. I think it's going to be the exact same as last year, where they beat us in the first game. We beat them in the second game. I'm just really disappointed at the moment.
I think what I'll say in regards to that one is that, like, obviously, yeah, last year when we played the Dragons, we lost at Cogra in that round 2 game, which was their round 1 game. So it seems like right now, the Dragons, they're always March premiers, right? They always seem to just really get off with a bang. They were top of the table after 2 or 3 rounds last year before reality hit, and they ended up coming second last, right? And this is what should prove to Titans fans that although we're down, we're dejected, and we're feeling out right now, it is only round 1, but, you know, a couple of rounds later, we did go and beat the Dragons at Seagulls Super Stadium, right? So now, hopefully it's the opposite, or we go down to Wollongong later on in the year and we beat them, but, you know, yeah, it's, I still have my same reservations about the Dragons and my same, you know, thought processes. One game's not going to change that, especially when we looked, and we'll get into it, but that's just what I want to say. Like, yeah, obviously, we do have to really reinforce that it has only been 1 round, and although we're feeling out right now, we're not out.
And I want to make it clear, actually, I just remembered that the intro that you guys will see on this video was this guy's fault. That was not my fault, so completely blaming him.
Well, they haven't actually. So we had a bet with the Mad Dragons podcast that I had to jump on last week, and we love them over there. They're good blokes over there, and I was so confident in our game. Like, I was so confident that I said to him, well, whoever is this is a bit of a point of confusion, right? Because they think that it was whoever was the loser recorded for the winners podcast, but I obviously told you, and as we've been kind of speaking, it was the winner gets to record the podcast for the losers podcast, right? They get to do the intro. So we actually don't have it this week. I don't know what's going on. They haven't messaged me back after I was talking to them last night. So that might be a positive. But with that being said, you know, mad shout out to the Mad Dragons podcast. At the end of the day, you know, they are another couple of podcasters that do exactly what we do, but for their team. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not saying we got robbed. I'm just saying we got rolled and we just weren't ready for it. So, you know, congratulations to them.
Yeah, it was a tough game. We're going to get into all that, give our thoughts, get everything out on the table. The only thing different to this podcast to previous ones are we are going to finish with some positivity. We're going to talk about what's next, our final thoughts, but we're going to end this podcast on a positive note because we both feel the worst thing we can do at this stage of the season, being round one, is to really get down in the dumps and think the world's over. The reality is the last two teams that won the premiership from Queensland, being the Cowboys and Broncos, both lost in round one. The team that won last year, being the Panthers, lost in round one. So there's more than enough evidence that not only can you go on to play finals after a poor round one performance, but you can actually still win the comp. So we got to finish with some positivity.
Absolutely.
Let's jump straight into our Titans news segment here. There's not too much, Blaze. I'll read it out. Jump in with anything you want. It was cramps for Kinney, who left the field. Nothing serious. He will be available in round 3, as will Kieran Foran. He's expected to return then per Des Hasler in the post-game press conference. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui has put in an early guilty plea to a grade 1 shoulder charge, so he'll be fined $3,000, but he will not be suspended any games. And I did rewatch the post-game presser with Des and Tino. Not too much concern with both of them. You could both tell they were disappointed. Des Hasler put it down to a swing of momentum of possession in the second half, and he thought that we made some defensive errors, and that allowed them to run away with the game. Anything from yourself there on our Titans news?
Well, look, in regards to Desi, like I waited for a couple of hours after the game at the back. It was starting to sprinkle a little bit, so it wasn't exactly a great deal of fun waiting at the back after a loss like that, but I always do what I can to make sure this team does know that there is still fans and supporters regardless of what they're going to see this week, because it hasn't been pretty online, obviously. But I did speak to Desi, who was the last person out, and he was just obviously really focusing on the fact that, yeah, guys, it is round one, and, this isn't what he said, but there's also been a lot of, Dogs and Manly fans who are, Dogs fans more so kicking the boot in, but Manly fans saying that he's an infamous slow starter. Manly were infamous slow starters under him. Look at 2021 with, the turbo season, right? They really struggled that first 5-6 rounds, but then again, they did play us and then put him back onto form. But overall, Des and Tino, Tino is one of the... He is such an emotional guy, and I love that about him. I think I might have spoken about this last week as well, is that I always see him, he's close to tears, and I am in tears after a lot of weeks. But, I just feel like this team is still confident. This is setting an absolute rocker, up us. But at the end of the day, Des and Tino in that press conference, they're understanding that it just wasn't good enough, and I don't think that we should just throw our toys out of the cot at the moment. In regards to Kenny, I think you thought at the time, I think you said to me that it looked like a bit of an ACL, which kind of gave me a bit of a heart attack there. But, it was great to see that it's nothing serious. Touch wood, I love Keanu. And actually, big shout out to Keanu's parents, who are massive lovers of this podcast. They gave us a huge rap to me outside at the back after the game, and we love them there, and they might be coming to the Bulldogs game with me, so that'll be a fun one there. But no, really, really lovely parents and really, really lovely family, so we really do appreciate their support of what we're creating here on the podcast, and everybody else as well, obviously. But yeah, look, I think that, again, Des and Tino, they know what they're doing. They just need to ignore all the outside noise, because the fans can say what they want. The fans can kind of put all their out there, negativity, positivity, whatever. But at the end of the day, they just need to get on with the job. That's just as simple as that.
Yeah, it's one of those games that you really don't take much from it besides just moving on. And you just acknowledge that it happened, see what you need to work on, go away and make those changes. And the positive is, we do have a bye. So it gives us, typically where you'd have 7 days to go away and work on it, 14 days. But we'll touch more on the importance of that bye a little bit later in the show. What we'll do now is typically we'd go straight to our NRL game review. We'll do Queensland Cup first, just because the NRL one will be a little bit longer this week by nature of we don't have a game to preview as well. And, of course, it was a big loss and we need to talk about it. So let's go and look at our Titans that played in the Queensland Cup this week. We're talking development players and top 30 players. If we spoke players that played for us throughout the trials, like someone like Jalen de Groot, who did score actually for the Jets, and we'd be here for too long. So Northern Pride, they defeated our Tweed Seagulls 32-16. We had 2 Titans feature in this game. Isaac Fa'asuamaleaui, who only played 18 minutes. I'm not sure if that was through injury or something else. He ran 43 metres and made 12 tackles. Very good in that time frame. And Jacob Arlick played the full 80 at back row. He made 67 metres and 19 tackles. didn't score this week. He was a prolific try scorer for Burleigh last year, changing over to Tweed this year. But you'd have to say a quietish game from both of our Titans players there. How did our Ipswich Jets go this week, noting they haven't... They didn't win a game all last year, and they've won 3 games in the last 3 years. Was there signs of improvement?
Well, listen, they only lost by 4 points. So let's put it that way, and was probably out of the two. And again, Ipswich aren't a feeder club; they're more of a club that we're putting our players into and whatnot. And they're assisting us in regards to our players getting some good footy time. But yeah, look, unfortunately, they did still go down to the Townsville Blackhawks 20-16 there. Look, we had a few of our guys playing this game. We actually probably had more guys playing in this game than we did for Tweed, which was interesting because obviously we went into this season saying that Tweed had such a dominating team full of Titan stars and whatnot. But it seemed like Ipswich, although not naming them originally, were able to absolutely put them all out there. And look, it was really good to see guys like Aaron Shook, 2 from 3 conversions, 127 metres run, 7 tackles. For 3 missed. We had Harley Smith-Shields, who scored a try, ran 155 metres and made 9 tackles. So that's what you want to see there from Harley, who was obviously knocking on the door of trying to get into one of our centres positions there. We had Kenny Mamalo, 162 metres for 2 tackle breaks and a line break. Josiah Pahulu, 47 minutes for 70 metres, 21 tackles and 4 missed. So too many missed tackles there for mine, but at the end of the day, that's some good meters there and a good amount of tackles as well. So it doesn't mean he's willing to throw himself at it, just needs to kind of clean that up a little bit. Ryan Foran, 37 minutes for 38 meters, 16 tackles and 0 missed. And yeah, look, I think that I think Harley Smith-Shields was probably the better one in the game.
Yeah, Harley Smith-Shields was the standout for us because he did make those 9 tackles with 0 missed, whereas Shoppy did miss almost 50% of his tackles. I would say if Harley Smith-Shields keeps this form, he will overtake Shoppy as our next outside backs depth player behind Jojo, because just like Jojo, he can play wing or centre. So great game by Harley there.
Put this out here for you though, and we'll get into the Titans in a minute. But again, these are guys who are still a part of our club. With the fact like Tanner, I've been said for so long, doesn't miss. Tanner doesn't miss. Unfortunately, right now he can't hit. He has been missing quite a lot. At this current moment, do you think that if Shoppy was able to continue down and get back into the frame of it all, would that be an option? Because who else? Oh, actually no, Tommy Weaver can kick. Tommy Weaver can kick conversions. I think he's 100% actually because he kicked that one against the Storm down there in Melbourne. So probably scratch that. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, disappointing that I guess all 3 of our teams have lost on the same weekend. But it's funny to say this, out of all 3 teams, the most impressive one was the Ipswich Jets. So, good on them. And I will also say this, and this is what my boy Dano said to me at the game. Apparently, he used to work for Tweed, but apparently the Tweed Seagulls actually flew up to Cairns that morning, which makes it obviously a lot more tougher than going the day beforehand and getting a good rest and whatnot. They apparently flew up to Cairns that day to Barlow Park. So that might be something to consider in regards to what happened, but overall still disappointing. And I guess that they're missing their guy in Tommy Weaver as well. If I was playing for the Titans, Tommy Weaver would normally play for them with Keanu Kenny playing instead of Jaden Campbell. Keanu is actually with Tweed as well, so they were missing a couple of the players that they probably would have more on a more consistent basis, the Tweed Seagulls. But yeah, disappointing weekend all round.
Exactly, and the Pride had NRL players like Jake Clifford and another young halfback up in North Queensland, Thomas Duffy, they were pretty stacked. So yeah, disappointing week. We lost every game. Harley Smith-Shields a standout for us. To end this segment on a funny note, because we do need some joy at the moment as Titans fans.
Please.
So the Townsville Blackhawks, as they were flying to the game to verse the Jets in Ipswich, the airline and the plane said, "You're too heavy with your weight. We'll get your bags to you later," which was all of their jerseys. So
oh, wow, okay.
They land in Ipswich, and then the plane says, "Sorry, we actually can't get them here till 9 p.m. now." So they rock up at the game, and they say, "Hey, we don't have jerseys or playing kit to the Ipswich Jets." And the Jets go, "Well, I don't know. Do you want to wear our away kit?" And
so they wore the away kit, did they?
So they wore the Ipswich Jets away kit. Against the Ipswich Jets in their home kit.
I'm saying that we won this game now because I'm saying that we thought if there was an intercept in that game, I'm saying that in the back of the mind, they were like, okay, that's our player, pass it to him, and then he does, who was it that did it in that little fun game we had at Seabus last year? It was at the back end of the year. We had like old players and whatnot, but one of them, as a joke, had the jersey on of one team and then took that jersey off after it got the ball and then ran the opposite way down in the opposition's jersey and scored a try. It was an ex-player for us. I can't remember who it was. Presto was playing that game as well, and a couple of the boys. So that's just what that reminds me of. But yeah, that's quite funny, man. So I'm taking the win. I'm taking the moral win. So English fans, you know all about that. We're taking the moral victory there for Ipswich.
As far as I'm concerned, I only saw people scoring in Jets kits, so it was
Exactly
6-0.
Yeah, bang, bang. Bang, bang, baby. Now we're talking. Now we're getting it. Now we're starting to understand.
And the other funny part to that story is Terry Campese is the new coach, and the team song when they win was also in the bag, so they didn't know the team song when they won. And Donny Sports, who does breakfast radio up in Townsville, made the joke on air. He says, "You didn't sing their song as well, did you? Because you were using their jerseys." Just a funny moment all around. Only rugby league can serve up this, right? It's a professional league.
That is rugby league to a T, man. That is just the peak of rugby league, mate.
That is rugby league indeed. Alrighty, unfortunately, it is time to most certainly face the music. I don't think we'll be smiling or laughing too much in this one. We lose to the Dragons 28-4, a game where we led 6-4 at half time.
No, we were down 6-4.
Down 6-4, my apologies. It was the first half we defended quite well, besides one offload try and missed plenty of opportunities in attack. That must be said. But in defense, besides that one offload try, we were pretty good for that 40 minutes. We go into the second half, they take over the possession, and it's 24 unanswered points. What hurts me most is it's another second half fade out. Let's be realistic. It's another second half fade out. I can't go into halftime with this team, Blaze, with any sort of lead or even being slightly behind and feel any sort of confidence anymore. I just can't. We were down by 2 points. And with all the optimism and belief, again, we just do nothing in the second half, which is so frustrating. Give me your thoughts on the game. I've got a lot to say, and I want you to jump in with me at times, but I want to hear your thoughts first on how you felt watching that game and how you feel now a couple of days later.
I kind of feel the same a couple of days later. You know, for us as content creators, you know, you can't really move past the game until you've kind of... it used to be that the vlog would come out and I have to edit the vlog myself. So I would still have those kind of feelings until I can stop looking at myself be sad for 8 minutes. But now we've got the podcast and it's like, not until the podcast comes out can we actually kind of move on and go to this next game, really. So, look, It has been a very, very mentally tough week. And I would say that across the entirety of the fan base who genuinely care about the week-to-week results and do go to the games, whether that be home, whether that be away, watch every single game. And that's because we had so much excitement and expectation. And then not only that, we played a team like the Dragons that are predicted spoon bottom four kind of deal, second last year. In a similar-ish situation, but as we said last week, and we actually got a comment about this on YouTube saying, it's a bit crazy. I love the confidence, but it's a bit crazy that you would prefer every Titans player over all those Dragons players. And for me, I will stand by that. Like, I genuinely believe that we have a man-by-man better team than the Dragons, and it just did not work on the weekend. I do think that, obviously, we're missing Foran, we're missing Dave and JC. I don't, and this is with all due respect to Dave and JC, I don't think that those guys changed the result on a dramatic level. But I do think that Kieran Foran changes that game on a dramatic level. Because to talk about a positive, that first half, we dominated the Dragons. The negative that comes from that is that we couldn't score nothing. We couldn't score a single thing, and it took us so long to be able to score through Loffy on the left-hand side. And you know, a lot of people are even arguing that there is even a slight little obstruction there based on that Panther Storm game, right? So, you know, it's a really frustrating one that we had so much ball, so much attacking pressure, but unfortunately Tan and Tommy Weaver just couldn't get it going overall. And, you know, we're as creators as well, you know, we have to also understand that, you know, although we have relationships with these players and whatnot, but we also do need to provide a little bit of accountability and responsibility in telling you guys kind of what our thoughts are. And unfortunately, that wasn't Tanner's best game. And unfortunately, Tanner does need to prove himself a lot. We did say before the season started that Tanner has to prove himself in his first 5 rounds, and that wasn't it, unfortunately. And I hate to say this because I love that bloke, and you guys know that I do, but he does need to put in a bigger and better performance than that, and I do think that Foran does provide that. As we've also said in this podcast before, Foran works with Tan. We can see that. And I do believe that Tommy will also work with Foran, right? But I just don't believe that Tommy and Tanner work well together. I think they're very... I just think that there's no real kind of leader there, and we need Tanner to be that leader. And this is where our issues lie, simply because if we score 2-3 tries in that first half, I genuinely believe we have too much confidence and we run over the top of them. So I think if we have 4 in that game, we do have that experienced direction leader. I do think that Tanner's able to play a bit more of a different game, which I know the complaints are that he's very bland and basic with his kicks, which on the weekend definitely were. And obviously he has missed that conversion, which does suck because that's a big part of his game, the fact that he was a 90+% kicker last year. So, yeah, I think that you add 4 into the attack there, the whole game changes, and we probably do go on to win in a similar fashion to what we thought. But because we could not score, for people who are casual fans of the game, if you have that much amount of possession and you can't score, well, guess what? That possession will even out. And then when the other team gets on the attack, then bang, they're going to probably score and they're going to take it away. And that's exactly what happened because the Dragons kept thrusting us away with every single opportunity. And then not only this, at 6-4 at half-time to the Dragons, and we're feeling the momentum based on the fact we've just scored the most recent try just before half-time. We go into half-time, we come out of it. Ben Hunt drops the ball off the literal kickoff. Off the kickoff. So we have another attacking opportunity. And yet nothing happens from it again. So that was proving the pudding right there. And it was just so dejecting. It was so disappointing. And yeah, I had to cry at the game. And I've teared up a couple of times, to be honest with you, because I want to see our fans happy. And I want to see our fans in a good mental state. But this team right now hasn't put us into a good mental state. It's probably since the Warriors game of 2021. And then before that, you'd probably have to go all the way back to 2010 against the Warriors. So there is a lot to unpack here, and I guess we'll obviously discuss through the points that you're about to talk through, but I think that's my main emphasis, is that there is a positive that if we have 4 in there, and yes, obviously Dave and JC, but if we have 4 in there, I don't think we're lacking in the attack, and we probably, and this is with all due respect, I do believe in that first half, we probably put that game to bed with the amount of ball that we had. But the negative that comes from that is that just... I don't even know, man. There's so many negatives. I'm trying to think of a positive. I just think that, I don't know. I'm still confident in our season, but that one really hurt.
I got 1 point, and one thing I'll actually push back on what you said. My first point is, I'm not in the business of crapping on individual players. I think it's one of the silliest things you can do in a team sport. But what I will say is, Tanner did have an opportunity to really stand up and have a big game and be a leader for our team, which we needed him to be with 4 and out.
Which we all want, by the way.
Opportunity.
Yeah, we all want that. It's like if you, and this is, sorry to interrupt you, but like to go on this for people listening, if you are a fan of a team and you say, for example, right, Tanner wasn't good, or Keanu wasn't good, or Bo Firma, who's come back off a massive injury, wasn't good, at the end of the day, if you are an actual fan of the team, you want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong in regards to it because I want my team to be successful. If you want to be proven right and everyone agreeing with you and believing in what you're saying, well then, I'm sorry, but you're a bit of a muppet because what's the point of supporting a team if you don't want to see the success on the field? So, you're right, continue with what you're saying, but I thought you were saying push back as in you disagreed with something that I had to say, but I agree. Like, Tan had to take a leap in this game and didn't.
So that was the point I agree with you with. The point I disagree is I actually think Dave and Jaden would have made a bit of a difference being there. Because if I posed it to Titans fans, who's our most dangerous forward in attack, we'd say Dave, right?
Well, yeah.
And then if we say outside backs, I'm probably going to say Jaden as well. Like, maybe say Brimo, but I think Jaden's more creative.
I would still say Brimo. I would still say Brimo there, and then there's also Loft, but he just needs to get good ball. He's just got to work on his defense as well, mind you. But like JC's definitely up there for sure. I think that, and this is not me disrespecting JC at all. JC knows I love him. JC is a great player, and I can't wait for him to come back. But I don't think that JC changes that game a great deal individually, but I will kind of lean more towards if you've got Dave on one side and Bo on one side, then yeah, there's probably a lot more opportunity there for attack. But with that being said, like, I don't think that Dave changes a 28-4 switcheroo. But again, it goes back to what I said before in the first half. If Kieran Foran is playing, he probably gets some good ball to Dave/Bo, and we score a try or two, right? A couple of tries. So I don't know. Exactly. It's a really hard one to unpack, to be honest with you.
So that's the reason I push back and disagree there. I do think if we had Foran in that first half, he would have got Dave in better positions. We would have made more of our attacking opportunities. I think we would have went into halftime with a sizable lead because we would have had more attacking options such as Dave and Jaden Campbell, whereas our attack was extremely flat and lost at times with that Kieran Foran there. We didn't have strike weapons and we didn't have direction. It was an absolute disaster. So I'm obviously speculating massively to suggest that 3 players would turn around a 24-point game. But potentially if we do go into halftime with a few points, the feeling is a lot different in the sheds. But let me go through some of the points I had. And some of these are brutal, and I apologize in advance if I'm too critical.
Oh, well, yeah, forwards, I'll reply throughout when you're saying each one.
Jump in as you please. Yes, please. Our forwards didn't go forward and generate any momentum besides Tino. Our halves just shifted the ball left to right all night with no shape and very basic plays. There was no depth. There was no options inside. There was no back runners. It was very simple. And most importantly, our 5th tackle options for kicks were absolutely atrocious. Right now, Tanner leads the NRL that round. He had the most attacking kick opportunities than any player. I think he had 12 in total. Not one were good. And he wasn't the only one putting in kicks. Some were done by Tommy, etc. But not one of our 5th tackle kicks were good.
I think
they were genuinely all the wrong option.
I think to go back on that and agree with that is that as you said before, that this was an opportunity for Tanner to really stand up and be the guy. And unfortunately, and with the amount of kicks that he had, it definitely was the perfect opportunity to be the guy. But it did seem, and I did complain about this during the game, that it just was very repetitive. And it's like, if we're seeing it's repetitive, well, then the guys that have been training all off-season long and been playing rugby league all their lives and are going up against it know exactly how to defend it every time. And there just wasn't any creativity, there wasn't any difference, there wasn't any change to kind of how we've played for a while now. Well, actually, like, it's crazy that in this game specifically, I did mention this at the beginning of the game to you as well, or at halftime, is that I was expecting Des to come in with, get this defense rolling, which is a positive for sure. That the defense was really strong in that first half, besides that weak offload in the first 3 minutes of the game. It was really, really strong, and you could see the big hits. You can tell they're working on getting some massive hits, but then the attack comes later. But the attack never came later, and it was just bland. And then the second half, obviously the defense kind of completely fell apart, but I think that came down to the fact that they just lost every kind of bit of motivation and any kind of discipline, because the kicks that we were having in that first half and the second half just weren't doing anything. There was no direction in the halves, and that's why I think that you need Foz there. And this is a really critical podcast, this one, to be fair, but it kind of does need to be said. And it's not like we don't love this team and these boys, but it does need to be said as well.
Exactly, and it's not like we're both professional coaches. I'm sure the coaching staff know this. I'm sure a lot of people with rugby league experience know this, but it's also us venting at the end of the day and just being honest about how we feel and what we saw. So I thought in every aspect of attacking rugby league, we were extremely poor. We completed at a higher percentage than them, but we had less meters, 5 less line breaks, 21 more missed tackles. And what frustrates me the most out of all the attacking stats of the Dragons, it was their offloads that killed us. They had 10 again. One of them coming from a try in the 2nd minute. We desperately wanted to see an improvement from that after the Eels trial.
I was about to say, the Eels trial killed us, exactly. And then that proved it, yeah.
And that was our one takeaway from that trial. Who cares? It's only a trial. We were trying different combinations, but one thing we need to work on is shutting down offloads. And then the Dragons go and get more than almost any other team this round and score tries off it in the 2nd minute. Very, very disappointing. We forced 1 repeat set all night. And then we lost possession from it on the very next kick. The only positive stats we can take from this is that we had less errors and less penalties, and that's hardly something to celebrate. That makes the result even worse, if I'm absolutely honest. So I'm heartbroken by this result. I'm gobsmacked by this result. And for the first time in years as a Titans fan, I came into this season with an excitement level and genuine optimism that I've never felt before. Yes, I've joked in the past, we're playing finals, we're top 4, it's our year. Everyone's made those jokes as footy fans. But I genuinely put my money where my mouth is. I travelled all the way to Queensland for this game. I live in Canberra, for those that don't know.
So sorry.
I came to the game because I just genuinely felt this is going to be an awesome start to our season. I said on your vlog before, this is where we show teams we're no longer here to make up the numbers. We are genuine players in this season. And so when we get to full time, when I have all these high expectations and I'm in the best mood, I just leave with a feeling of emptiness. I didn't sit there in the seats and go, I'm so sad. I didn't sit there and say I'm so disappointed or I'm so angry. I was just genuinely empty. Our team over 80 minutes stripped me of everything in the last week. Every bit of joy, happiness, excitement that I dreamed of all off season was stripped away slowly and God well damn painfully over 80 minutes. Because the first 40 minutes, yes, we were down by 2, but we didn't look like scoring for a lot of that. We could tell that this is something's not right here. We're not scoring. I thought optimistically at halftime, maybe they'll run out of gas from all the defense we put them under. How do we run out of gas? How do we score 24 on Anson when we had majority of the ball in the first half? That's just simply not acceptable. Very, very empty.
I think
very stripped of feelings. And I'm sure you'd have to agree.
Well, I think that empty is the right word. Like, and just to clarify for people listening as well who might not understand the dramaticism of all kind of what we're saying here, is that for us it's not really dramaticism. Like for us, like we are mentally, physically, emotionally and financially invested in this team. And
we live and breathe Titans.
Absolutely. Like I'm at every single game home and away regardless of the results. Like that's why we need to that's why this podcast at the end of it, like we're going to try and force ourselves back into a positive mindset, right? Because it's the first round, so there's still a long season to go. But I can tell you from experience that if you get into a negative viewpoint now and think that our season's done now and that we've got no chance now, well then guess what? You're going to have a tough time for the next 26 weeks. Watching week in, week out, and let the season unfold. Let at least the first 5 to 8 games unfold. If this is still happening after 5 games, then absolutely. But yeah, look, it's not drama to us. Like it is. This is what we live and breathe overall. So. We're just going to have to pretend like that one didn't exist and that was just an early season nerves. It doesn't translate nicely from that Eels trial to this game. Obviously, we did have that good trial against the Dolphins, but then again, that was without a single one of our starters. That was literally all depth. So I feel like that probably set us up for a little bit of not unrealistic expectations, but high expectations. And this is what I say as well, like the Titans fans, and there's a lot of other fan bases don't understand this about Gold Coast fans, is that we have never had success in the past to be able to adjust our mindset and say that was only round 1, we go again. The Panthers last year, they lost round 1, they lost the World Club Challenge, but the year before that and the year before that, they won the Premiership, right? And also went on to win the Premiership again in 2023. So their fans, despite losing 8-0 to the Storm on the weekend, they don't care. They're just like, oh, it was one game, we'll turn this around easy. I know they've got Parramatta this week, but at the end of the day, they're confident they can change it around because they've got the proof in the pudding. The same thing with the Roosters. They start off every season slow, really poor, really average. I know they beat the Broncos in Vegas, but at the end of the day, like this team is infamous slow starters, but they know that halfway through the season they can turn it on. Look at Knights fans, right? They were awful on the weekend. Absolutely awful. But last year, they were awful until about round 18. And then they won 10 games straight, got into the 8, and got through to the second week of the finals to lose to the Warriors in the end, who had a fantastic season themselves. But for us, we've never had that to be able to say, yeah, it's going to happen. So the positive from that is that, yeah, it's happened before, but that's with other teams. The negative from that is that it's other teams. It's not us. So when people see, as Titans fans, when you see it from a negative light, it's actually quite valid because you need to see it to believe it at this point, because we're always, and this year was a different breed, like it was a hybrid. It was like on steroids how hyped and expectations were. The club has always promised a lot and then delivered a little. This year, I'm still confident that they're going to deliver a lot, but every single year, it's always new year, fresh start, feel the energy kind of deal, and it just never does really end up happening. But that's why we need to see it to believe it, And, hopefully we go out against the Dogs next week. The Dogs have another tough game against the Sharkies this week. We've obviously got the bye. But hopefully the Dogs get slapped up there and they don't have a point to prove against a team that they consider weaker. It'll either be their 0-3 or we go 0-2. So, I don't know. You just can't get yourself into too much of a negative mindset early. But with that being said, and this is directly to the Titans fans, you are valid in your thought process of this team has never proven to you that we will turn it around. But you do still have to believe that this team will turn it around.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It can be tough to see that picture when we've never seen the picture before, or feel that feeling when we've never felt that feeling before. But what I will say to wrap this section up before we move into our 3-2-1s are, one win will not make or break our season in the same way that one loss can't either. There's 24 games in a season. We're one down. We've got 23 to go with 2 more buys to go after this week. It's just one game. We've just got to leave it in the past and move on from there. And that's why we do want to finish as well with a bit of a positive section on here. Let's go to our 3-2-1s. I highly suspect we've got the same player here in 3.
Yep.
I've got our captain, Big Tino, at 58 minutes, 21 runs for 182 meters, the most in both categories. He had 92 post-contact meters. 11 of our 17, so more than 50%, didn't hit that in outright meters, meaning Tino met the defense and had more leg drive in meters than 11 of our 17 players. He also broke 4 tackles and made 28 of his own. A brilliant captain's knock by Tino, who didn't give up throughout. Really, really proud of his effort. No doubt you've got the same for 3, so go ahead with 3 and your 2.
Yeah, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui is easily the number 3 in this game. I think that he was just phenomenal again, and as has been a bit of an issue throughout the last couple of years, it's always, and this is not an issue with him, but it's an issue with the team, is that it's always Tino, and we need people and we need players to take away, with all due respect, to take away the spotlight from Tino and put it onto the entire team. So we do need those players to lift up. There's been so many times at the end of games where, Tino and I talk and we just need something more, and that's from me. I'm not saying that he says this, but, well, he says that the team needs to do more, obviously, but I say, we need a collective effort, because we see the effort from Tino week in, week out. He is the captain for a reason, and there's no doubting that, because he leads from the front and will do everything he can to try and win this game. But, a front row forward is not going to win you your game. You need good halves, you need good attack, you need good defence, and it's not going to come from one individual player. So he's doing everything that he can, and we just need to see guys really come up underneath him and really rock and roll. So really happy with Tino and love that he is a leader of this club, and just, I hope he just keeps maintaining the belief in that, the direction that we're attempting to achieve. Number 2 is more than likely going to be quite similar as well. I am going the big fella, the best Haas in the business. The best Haas in the business. It is Cleese Haas here. I just thought that he was incredible, man, for a guy who had to come in for Dave Fafita, so there's a lot of expectations there in regards to what Dave can provide. Now, I'm not saying that Cleese is necessarily the best attacking player in this game by any means, which is what Dave would have brought, but defensively, he was absolutely phenomenal, man. Let me just go get the stats here. He made 43 tackles in this game. 43 tackles, which was the most amount of tackles out of our entire team, and a lot of people have criticised him. They've criticised him in last year for kind of not really impacting a game, but you can't tell me that 43 tackles is not impacting a game. That's to put it in comparison, that's 15 more tackles than Tino, 15 more tackles than Bo. That is 25 more tackles than Keenan. That's 4 more tackles than Sammy Verrills. And then, 15 tackles for Liu, so that's getting up to the 30 marker there, getting up to the 30 marker over Aaron Clark as well, and similar with Jimmy Jolliffe. So, it just shows the difference there, and it was really, really quality to see. So, although we missed a couple of tackles, I'm okay with that if you're making as many tackles as he is. And yet, despite making all those tackles, I'm sorry, but there are a couple of players here that have missed 6, 5, and 4. 6, 5, and 4 tackles, and actually, there's multiple 4. There is, okay, let's have a look at this for a second. This is a bit of a negative here. I didn't even notice this. 5 missed tackles there for one player. 4 missed tackles for another. 6 for another. 4 for another. And 4 for another. And another 4, sorry. And then another 4. That's a ridiculous amount for individual players to have. I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. I don't want to call this out here for individual players because it is one game, but that needs to be sorted out immediately. So to go back on Cleese, loved what he did. I think that he deserves a spot in the 17. Obviously, that's Dave's spot, but Cleese definitely deserves a spot in the 17.
Yeah, Cleese hustles my 2 points as well. 43 tackles, only missing 3. His edge definitely defended better than the other edge with Beau Fermor and others. So although he did miss the 3 tackles, as you touched on, he still made 43, the most in our team, and I respected his effort throughout. And my 1 point went to Phil Sammy. I thought he had some nice runs getting us out of our own and 14 runs for 162 metres. He also made a line break and broke 10 tackles, which is the most in the NRL at the moment, the most of any player that round. So Phil had some nice carries for us. That's why he gets my 1 point. Who gets your 1 point?
Did you say who got your 2?
Cleese Haas.
Oh, you did say Cleese Haas. There you go. All right. Well, my 1 is going to be different, but I can understand why you've gone Phil there because he does have some good stats to him. But I'm actually going to go for a guy that didn't actually have an incredible amount of stats. Like, he did run for 90 metres from 10 runs, but I thought that AJ Brimson was still fantastic in this game and one of the guys that was looking to open it up. Like, he was one of the guys that was trying to spark that attack every single time. And I think that although the stats don't necessarily look unbelievable by his standards, but he still made 19 tackles, only missed the 2 there. But every time he had the ball, he did still look like he could get something really going. And he looked like... It's always Tino and AJ for me that just seem like there's just everything, and that's not disrespecting anybody. But AJ and Tino just kind of get it, and they're just always throwing themselves at every given opportunity. And AJ, for me, there's a lot of people complaining and saying he should be fullback. I feel like I get why people say that because he does deserve a lot of ball, but I think that he's going to turn into an absolutely brilliant centre.
Yeah, the signs have been there in the trial and also round 1 there. He was great throughout, even moved to fullback at the end to cover the Kinney cramps injury. So great selection there in AJ Brimson. Now, we obviously don't have an NRL game to preview this week as we're on a bye. For what it's worth, we will mention our reserve grade players. So it's Tweed versus South Logan's Magpie. There's no Titans named yet in that Tweed side. However, we expect some will come in late, like what happened with the Jets last round. The Jets are up against the Clydesdales, which is a very winnable game for them, actually. So far named in that side is Kenny Mamalo, Aaron Shupp, Harley Smith-Shields, Josiah Pahulu, and Ryan Foran. Both games are available on Q+, which costs $5 to watch for the round. It's an online streaming service if you want to watch some of our Titans in action.
I think what I'll say here as well for people who may not know, just so that you can have an understanding about who they're really playing. So Tweed, like you said, playing South Logan Magpies now in week 1. The South Logan Magpies lost 28-16 to the Dolphins there. So that shows that's definitely a winnable game for them. Get on down there, support our feeder club and the Tweed Head Seagulls. Really looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. And with the Jets versus the Clydesdales, the Clydesdales are a team that are kind of considered a bit of the easy beats of the competition because they are one of the newer teams as well. And they lost 28-10 to the Capras. So, look, I think that, again, Ipswich haven't won a game all season last year. This is a game right now they can win. Like, this could be their first game, but it is in Toowoomba, which isn't a great deal far from Ipswich. So it's not like it's a massive... Actually, wait, Toowoomba's not too far, is it?
I don't think so. I know Toowoomba's near, Warwick. But I'm not...
I'm going to actually look at it right now. Ipswich to Toowoomba is
an
hour and 9 minutes. No, it's nothing. It's basically a home game, son. So slap the Clydesdales, son. Slap them, son.
Yeah, I think our Jets could get a great win there. And for those that are interested in going to the Tweed game, the Magpies actually do have some good players there that have played NRL. Like, they're coached by Carmichael Hunt. You'll be able to say Tristan Saylor, Jordan Pereira, Tavita Pengai Jr. off the bench. So hopefully a few of our Titans get named for Tweed as well, and there'll be some big stars in that game. So it should be a good one, if I'm honest. But if not, as I said, just Google Q+. It's $5 to watch for a whole round.
Foran connected with Tweed?
Jets. Or Jimmy Kieran Foran?
Kieran Foran, yeah.
Yeah, he's with Tweed, but he won't play. He'll be rested till round 3, 100%.
It's just an interesting little something, because I'm pretty certain I heard that he may be, but obviously it might not. It might not be the case. It probably isn't the case, but there's still maybe, Desi says we'll get you back into it with a nice little easy game there. You'd have to expect Tweed win that game if Foz is playing overall, and I don't know, Oh, yeah, there could be a couple of our guys, like a Keanu or someone like that, who could go back to Tweed for the week as well. You don't know with the bye and what Desi's thinking. So, yeah, look, good luck to both of our clubs there. But, Tweed Seagulls, slap them down, and Jets, prove who's the better in the Western Brisbane kind of area.
Yeah, I actually heard Scott Prince will be partnering Kieran Foran in the halves there. I heard Greg Bird's making a return and Brimson will be at fullback. Disclaimer, we do get a commission of every ticket that Tweed sells. No, I'm only joking, guys. Look, there's a little bit of a laugh there. Let's end on a positive, mate. It's been a tough podcast. It's probably been a tough listen for our listeners. We want to end on a positive, so I'll rattle some out. Jump in as you please. Rattle off some of your own. Look, usually in round two, if you have a bye in the NRL, it sucks. It's not early enough in the season to warrant a break or needing a rest.
Mate, I'm popping the champagne that we've got to buy right now.
Exactly. In our case, it's actually perfect. It gives us another week to work on things, another week to, if the players need to, sit back and feel that pain and the sting, and then really build over the next 2 weeks. Or vice versa. It gives them a chance to forget that game and really work on the positivity again over the 2 weeks. However Des Hasler wants to handle this, the facts are we had a poor game. We've now got 14 days to correct it. And then we versed the Bulldogs, who are probably perceived as the lower competition in the league. So there's a big positive there, in my opinion. The other thing is, Blaze, it's a long season. We can still build and grow off this. Plenty of teams have lost in round one and still made finals. Plenty have looked horrible in round one and still made the finals. We weren't the only team that looked poor in round one. Sure, you can argue we looked a little bit poorer than others, but how long is a piece of string? Do you know what I mean? Does it really matter?
Didn't look as poor as the Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that for free.
Dolphins were poor. Broncos were poor. Rabbitohs were poor. Most sides that lost in round one looked pretty poor. Sharks won and they looked pretty poor, for example. Yeah. So it's all good. It's all good. It's very easy to overreact and let our feelings take over, like I'm probably guilty of when I gave my review of the game. We're not hiding away from the fact we were poor. We fully acknowledge it. We're not going to throw our toys out of the cot and give up. In fact, we need to do the opposite. As Titans fans, we need to turn up for each other in round 3, whether that's in front of your TV or at the game. We need to be ready to go again. We need to be ready to support this team as much as we can with our online comments and positivity. We need to get ready to believe again and ready to support this team and this community as much as we humanly can. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want our team to be successful. The only way we do that is through community, through each other, and through uplifting our team and really being in this together and united. And so it'd be very easy for us as Titans fans right now to throw the toys out of the cot and go, stuff this. Nothing's going to be different. I've seen this story before, but we have to come together collectively, believe, and support to help really rewrite this story and show the rest of the league and show ourselves that we can still be successful. It's just one game, guys. We can't stress that enough. Please don't overreact based off one game. By the same token, if we won that game by 28-4, would we have sat here, Blaze, and said we're winning the premiership?
I would have said we're winning the next 3 premierships in a row, for sure.
Yes, but in all seriousness, would we have really felt in our hearts that because we beat the Dragons 28-4 winning the comp? We wouldn't have. So
anyone with a realistic thought process would have been like, yeah, okay, congratulations, like we beat the Dragons, that's great. We would have joked about it for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but then we would have been like, okay, well, that was a very expected. It was the Dragons, right? And I think, and again, that's what hurts the most is that this Dragons team is predicted so low. But they did play well on the day. They did play well enough to beat us, right? And I think that kind of to go into the positive that you were talking about there is that, yeah, I disagree with you. The Sharks looked bad. I think they looked bad for 20 minutes, but then they absolutely killed it for the next 60 against the Warriors over there in New Zealand, which will be a fun one for us on Anzac Day. But no, I am still confident. We're going to win this week. Let's put it that way. We'll get those 2 points, baby. The Tigers, they're happy. They got their 2 points, and now we're going to get ours. So, right now we're in 16th, and the Dolphins are in 17th, the Bulldogs are in 15th, but I want to point this out to you guys. Do you think the Rabbitohs are a good team? Because right now they're in 13th. Do you think the Broncos are a good team, the one who made the grand final last year? Well, they're in 12th right now. And the Panthers, they're in 11th. I think they've won the last 3 premierships in a row. It really puts it in perspective. Actually, 3 of the top 4 teams from last year are on the same points as us. They're on the same points as us. And we're the only ones guaranteed of points. Actually, fun fact for you, the Broncos played the Rabbitohs this week. So we will, at minimum, be above either the Broncos or the Rabbitohs this week. So, take that one and really celebrate it, because that's all you can do when you're a footy fan, man. You have to take the little wins. Although this has been such a rough week, rough. At the end of the day, in round 2, we get that bye, and then we go again against the Dogs, and there's a high chance that we're above the Broncos. And there's a decent enough chance we're still above the Panthers as well. And I get it's a bye, but just use this bye as a bit of a reflection period to say, yeah, we need to wait and see it. But the boys need to just train the house down. They can't be here for a holiday. That's been what the Gold Coast has been for a long time. And we know the Gold Coast is a great holiday because if you live on the Gold Coast, it's the best place to live in the goddamn country. I don't care what people say. They're like, oh, it's just a tourist destination. No, it's not, man. We get to live in the tourist destination, if you want to say it like that. And I'm telling you, I'm not complaining. I definitely prefer to live in the Gold Coast than Canberra, than Sydney, than Melbourne, than definitely Brisbane, right? That's why Brisbane always travelled down to us. So I'm just giving it, and we said this before the season started, and we said this as well about Tanner, right? Is that we need to see 5 weeks. We need to just force ourselves to wait the 5 weeks. And there was an interesting comment that I did see on Facebook. Obviously, Facebook has been going rife on the old fan club and other places, right? But I did find it super interesting when someone said we haven't earned the right to wait 5 to 8 rounds, right? Like everybody else has. As going off what I said before, realistically, we haven't earned that right. And I would actually kind of agree that we haven't earned that right, but I would also say that doesn't mean that it's not correct and that we shouldn't have to wait for it. But it's just in the fans' mind, waiting that 5 to 8 is something that teams who, not teams that have been frequently disappointing. And we just have to use this week as a reflection period. And we move on to the next man. But good luck to me in Belmore. And everybody, if you're one of the Titans fans travelling Belmore, sit with us. I will suggest to you very sincerely and seriously, please sit with us. Because it is not great for you to sit on your own. It is not great for you to sit in a place that you are not around a whole bunch of like-minded people. It is a volatile atmosphere and is something that I can tell you firsthand from first experience. It's if you aren't prepared for like a mental warfare and a dog mentality from their fans, then don't go, is what I'll say. So this one, I've actually had a few people messaging me saying, I'm going to come to the Dogs game, or I want to come to the Dogs game. Is it fun? And it's like for me, it's fun, kind of. Last year wasn't really, but at a core. For me, it is, because I understand kind of what I'm going down to now. But if you're not going there with the right mentality, and then we lose, then I'm telling you, it's going to be a real rough one. So just be self-aware and be prepared for kind of how it is as fans. And I wouldn't normally talk about this, but I know that this one is the only game out of our entire season that I do warn fans, just be careful going to this game unless you're with a big group.
Yeah, a Doggies loss at their home can be a bit of a rough one, indeed.
I hate it. End the podcast.
I'm a dad. I'm allowed to do it.
So am I, mate, but I still hate it, all right?
Fair enough. And I want to finish on one more positive point, and that is that, as Seagulls fans pointed out, Desi Hasler is a bit of a slow starter who builds into a season. And when we last played finals, we actually finished that season very strong, as we did in the other year, until Kevy Proctor had a bit of a nibble where he probably shouldn't have. So we do finish strong late, and Des Hasler does start and
what's
the
actually
season.
Quite funny that I just thought of is that everyone's so focused on Desi going back up against Manly in round 7. Well, next week he's going up against the Dogs, So
Yes.
and that's a more Manly fans love Desi. Right, Manly fans love Desi, and I feel like they'll always love Desi because of what he's done for the club. He's won 2 grand finals with them and made a third, and that third one, they lost to a cheating Storm team. So you could make the argument that you could give him 3, just like Eels fans try to do every single time in 2009. But at the end of the day, he's won 2 grand finals there, and Manly fans understand the reasoning for why he got removed was not because of performance, it was because of the other situation, right, that we're not going to get into today. So Manly fans aren't really volatile towards him. But Bulldogs fans don't respect him as much as they should. And 2012 and 2014 did happen, and he got him to the grand final, but they only remember him. And actually, I saw you commenting about this on your own Instagram today, Clarkey, is that Bulldogs fans only remember him for the back-ended contracts that really put their club downhill for a few years, and they don't really give any acknowledgement to the organisation and the backroom stuff. That is what did that alongside Des. It's not like Des wasn't anywhere to blame there, but one, it can't happen anymore, and also two, it wasn't just Des, it was the whole club. So that's another interesting factor that I wasn't really thinking about in regards to next week's game. It could be quite a feisty one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Bulldogs fans don't like Des Hasler. It's as simple as that. They do not like him. They feel like he's the reason they've struggled for so many years post that 2014 grand final appearance. And they still absolutely blame him. They do not blame the CEO that has since been removed and the multiple board members that have changed out since. It's all Des Hasler's fault. So it will be a bit of a personal clash for us.
But look, positive is that we're going to slap them, mate. The positive is we're going to slap them, mate. Slap them, man, Just...
And that's my final positive point. Win or lose round one. Lex continues to slap himself. Win or lose round one. The next step's still the same for us. We have to go to round 3 and win. So the goal doesn't fundamentally change. As the slapping doesn't.
I'm trying to keep it. I'm just trying to put myself into a happy moment, all right? Just fire up, Clarkey. No, we can't say that after the Dragons game because
we can't say that just yet, but we can say it next week for sure.
No, because the Dragons, the Dragons podcast, they go, "Come on, Dragons fans, fire up!" So we can't say fire up, but come on, Clarkey, rip in, son, woof woof.
Rev up. Yeah, rev up. No, but yeah. So guys, whether we won or lost round one, the goal's the same. Our next step is still the same. Let's go down to Belmore. Let's go down to the Bulldogs' home and get a win for our coach against his former club. And that's exactly what we'll be focused on after this bye round. Regardless of what you get up to your bye round, hopefully you still enjoy the footy. We all wish we could watch our Titans, but it is a very good time for us to take a little break and restart our season in round 3. That is the end of our show. We want to say thank you very much for being here with us. We will see you at the same time next week to preview our game against the Doggies and recap how our Titans did in Queensland Cup, as well as the results there. For our Women Queensland Cup players, what we will do is to keep the show condensed and around that hour mark. Once the NRLW season gets closer, we'll do a full preview then, and we'll also reflect on what their stats have been like in the competitions leading up and give you some insights there on their form. So from myself, one final thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you next week. And over to you, Blaze, to farewell the show. Please do not slap yourself anymore, though.
Listen, dude, don't tell me what to do, son, because I'll start doing it again, son.
Stop the tape. Cut the show, please.
Keep cracking on. We fire up. We keep slapping down. We rip in. We just having a bit of a laugh, guys, is kind of how you just have to get through it, right? Because at least this is kind of finishing up the podcast with a bit of a laugh, because it has been, again, as we've said, a rough one. So, we'll be back next week. You guys know where to find us every single week. Spotify, Apple, and also on YouTube. Obviously, guys, if you are on YouTube, thumbs up, subscribe, comment below your thoughts. Really back this team in. And please don't comment pure hatred on, Instagram or tagging players or sending them messages or anything like that. We just have to really reinstate this and reinforce this, that you can be critical, but don't just, go out and start swearing at them and telling them all this kind of crazy stuff. Because I know what I get, and Clarkey knows what he gets, and we know what they get, right? So just be respectful and be critical, but hope to be proven wrong, is what I'll say. Always hope to be proven wrong, and the boys will get off to a great start next week against the Dogs. And we won't have to worry, and I'm going to be sipping pina coladas at Belmore Stadium. I don't know if you can order pina coladas there, but I'll find somewhere. I'll go to Leichhardt if I have to, mate. Actually, Clark, before we go, you going to Leichhardt this week? Was it next week you going to Leichhardt?
Cut the show. No comment. No comment. I will not be going through with that.
Hey, you have a membership. You're meant to be getting a membership. So just to quickly clarify for everybody, so Clarkey said if the Titans, we were so confident. Clarkey said if the Titans lose, there's no way. So he'll do the dare of the top comment, right? And the top comment, I believe, was was buy a Tigers membership and go to 5 Tigers games this season. So next week, the Dogs and Titans at Belmore. Hey Clarkey, it's only 10 minutes away to Leichhardt, mate. So we'll see you there.
Double vlog. BKR does two games one day.
And you get to support them against the Sharks, where I'll be getting on the Sharks for my mum, right? So, hey, at least I'll win twice that day, and you'll win at least once, which is not bad game.
I'll win once.
Exactly right. But all right, guys, we're jumping off. We appreciate you, and I'll say go Titans. Clarkey will say go Tigers.
Not going to happen.